Hey Seekers, welcome back to my fireside. For those of you who have been following my ritual burning away of the old, this has kind of been my sanctuary for the last few weeks as we've been riding through the tail end of Venus retrograde, the Mercury retrograde, and that's the thing with this Sagittarius new moon, you guys. It is a closing ceremony to a 3-month learning cycle that we have been in that has taken us on an entire emotional soul journey, a rewiring journey, so to speak, that, started at the beginning of September. So this new moon in Sagittarius, it's at 15 degrees of Sag. And it's on December 6th, really the 7th. It's like that night if you're in the US. If you're in Europe, this moon's going to be going direct Europe, and any further in that direction, it'll be going direct during the early morning hours and into the day of the 7th. So really the 7th is when we're going to get most of this energy, unless you're in LA or Hawaii, and then in which case the 6th is going to be your jam. So that night, those couple of nights, moons are about a 3-night affair, with the direct aspect being the most intense, but there being a general energetic thing. For those of you wondering, it's not just one specific hour and it's done. This is like a 3-day process. However, Sag new moon. It is a new moon that is on the tail end of the Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde will have just gone direct hours before this moon is in conjunction with the sun in that perfect aspect. And that Mercury retrograde started just hours after the Venus retrograde, but after Venus went direct. And that Venus retrograde actually had a pre-shadow phase that started at the beginning of September. I think you can see where I'm going. 3 months of deep internalization, deep time where we were stripped back time and time again to who we really are and what we really want. Time and again where when connection seemed easy, when the path seemed clear, we were stripped back and asked again, is this really what you want? Do you really want to live this pattern again? Do you really want to connect with these people? Do you really? Do you really? I say it's the closing ceremony, but it's really going to take until 2019 for us to fully close the chapter of these retrogrades, all of them that took place in 2018. It is going to take into Capricorn season before we fully feel that we have integrated what was brought to us during those retrogrades. And the Sag new moon is volatile. I will say that. Which is why I feel like it's a closing ceremony, because it's kind of over the top. It's kind of an over the top emotional affair. No holds barred here, my friends. I will be really, really, really blunt and honest with you. I feel like the last few moons I've been a little bit like this, like, oh, this moon, hold tight, keep to yourself, do your own thing. But I have to tell you guys, this moon specifically, be aware. This is going to touch on the very core of this conversation that you see time and time again, and healing and transmutation, new age, any of this idea of the polarity between fear and love. Fear being the lack of love, fear being that separation from divine and love. And there being this moment where that question is asked, what are you using that are survival mechanisms? And are they kicking up? And why are they kicking up? That is what this new moon is going to be triggering big time. Not only are we just coming out of a Mercury retrograde that threw a lot of us for a loop, I personally did more deep internal integrative work during the Mercury retrograde than I did the Venus. I think because we were incorporating Venus during the Mercury retrograde. I happen to have a Sag in my chart. I happen to have, the placements were just intense for me for that, but at any rate, not only that, but here's the other huge thing that's going on. There is a huge square, my friends. And it's not just like your run-of-the-mill square where it's like, Oh, you got a planet over there. This is another conjunction in another mutable sign with two planets who are like two flavors that should not go together. Like, I'm trying to think of one. Like egg and ice cream, you know? Mars and Neptune are going to be conjunct at 13 degrees of Pisces within hours of the sun and the moon being conjunct in Sagittarius. The Sagittarian Pisces connection, man, you guys, that one is powerful and it's intense. And it is, you know, the thing with Sag and Pisces energy, these are energies that help us escape from the very grounded day-to-day routine. Sag is all about our philosophies in the world. Like, let's zoom out and look at that macro lens and come up with new ideas and engage in the philosophy and then act on that. Act through the world in that. Pisces is like, let's get it full on fantasy. Like, I don't even want to get into just like your belief systems and your philosophies. Let's just go on full on fantasy and zoom all the way out. So not only do you have all this mutable, like all these planets are hanging out in these signs, like we have this new moon going on, so Jupiter's hanging out there, amplifying that. And then we have a square with the sun and the moon in Sag, Mars and Neptune in Pisces. Mars and Neptune, that's the egg and the ice cream. Or I don't know, I'm trying to think of a better like bad food combo that you wouldn't want to have. I think about, yeah, I'm sure you guys can come up with something. I'm sure you'll put it in the comments. Because they just go about things so differently. But here's the thing with those two. They are both, Mars and Neptune are very much about our defense mechanisms on the physical, the literal, and the spiritual. So Martian energy is about the warrior, you know, and when we get fully into Martian mode, it's about walls. It's about building fortification. It's about like building fortification by just moving through things as fast as possible, blasting through things, just making things happen. It's about creating fortifications of survival. It's a very survival-based energy, Mars is, you know, it's just going to take action to just keep the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, just keep it going, right? That's a great survival technique when we're living in a place of where we are trying to protect ourselves from old wounds. And Pisces survival technique is to zoom, just check out. Let's go out and just put a filter of fantasy over this, right? And these are like the big macro lenses. I'm not saying that this is what Sagittarius and Pisces do. This is what these energies in Pisces are doing, especially conjunct like this. So that's just to be clear. So when you have Neptune at home in Pisces here, conjuncting against this Martian energy of like self-protection, and then you have this fantastical nature of Neptune and Pisces squaring off against the sun and moon, we are hitting headfirst into how we self-protect. Like the root self-protection. We're not talking about like lighthearted self-protection here. We're talking about the self-protection that you develop from a very young age. Every single one of you out there, I'm sure, has self-protection mechanisms, however subtle and quiet they may be, from different things you have experienced throughout your life. Most of us have root wounds that spring up around a very early age, around 2. And they inform certain frameworks that get stronger as we get older. And this is one of those downsides of law of attraction, that sometimes when we get one of these neural pathways going, these energetic circuits going, they can grow in intensity and amplify throughout our lives. And they can be very sneaky. I mean, that's the thing with these things. They can seem very logical, these survival tactics, these fear-based tactics. They can seem very logical. I always see that meme, you know, people who were raised on love versus people who are raised on survival see the world really differently. And I have to say, I don't think there is one person that can say they can adamantly say they are on one team or the other. I think everybody has experienced both, and everybody has their own survival techniques. Now, here's the thing. If you just give in to that kind of intensity, yeah, you could like just react, right? You could just take that Martian, Neptunian energy that's conjunct there, squaring off against our sun and moon, leaders in Sagittarius trying to lead us forward into something, and retaliate and say, I am not doing this. I am not growing. I do not want to go into this. I do not want to touch this wound. I do not want to do it. So I'm just going to retaliate. I'm going to tell people how I feel. I'm going to put up my survival mechanisms. And that's where this moon gets tentative. It gets tense. It gets intense. So if you aren't paying attention, this is where like drama can get involved, and people say, ooh, you know, watch out. On the world political spectrum, there's a lot of talk about it being a new moon of sneakiness, of lies, of deception, of manipulation. All of that could be possible, right? You know, Neptune is the fantasy planet with his Martian must win. So if you have somebody in your life who's manipulative, yeah, this energy is going to be amplifying that. However, what's the root of all of this? Where am I trying to take this conversation? I'm going to take it someplace very specific right about now. And I'm going to take this someplace very personal. And I'm going to give you guys an assignment that I think is so important during this time of transition. In order for you to make the most of the next year, use this new moon. This is digging in the midnight garden at its finest when you're paying attention. And the best thing you can do is get in there and hang out with Mars and Neptune, hang out with the sun and moon, hang out with this mutable, transformative energy at the tail end of a year of retrogrades, and do this work. I'm so excited to share it with you. I'm sure you guys have seen or done some of this around you. Some of you, I'm sure, have already done this. It's kind of one of those exercises that I think is really important. But it's inner child work. It's really crucial that we honor our inner child, that we honor the being that came into this world with all that flow and optimism and faith, the ease of which was so obvious that it wasn't blighted until we started to learn these protective mechanisms that we will be hitting up head first against during this new moon. I'm going to show you a picture of little Sarah here. I was just going through some old papers. I've been going through old papers and burning a lot. Not pictures, but other things. About to go to dance gym class, and actually my Sag grandpa is standing behind me. He was so cool. Like, look at him. He's like leaning against his old, like, I think it was a Cadillac, like dropping me off at dance. My Sag grandpa was hilarious. Super troublemaker. Oh my gosh. You know, Sages have had my back. They've been the reason I have kind of thrived and survived in this world in so many ways. So I love this picture because there's my Sag grandpa, like, you know, right behind me, just like having my back. Anyway, here's little Sarah. And do you ever guys, here's my homework assignment to you. Pull up a picture of yourself if you have one available as a little kid. Any age, really, I mean. And like, look at that picture of that being. And think about all the things you do and say to yourself that self-protect you, that hold you back from feeling happy or feeling worthy or feeling connected. All those little insidious things that we say to ourselves in the day-to-day. And think about applying that to your little self. Like, would you ever do that? No. And if you're really brave, you can do a visualized meditation where you visualize, you get really relaxed, take a lot of deep breathing, and you ask for Source to take you to the root cause of a belief that you have. It will take you right back to the moment you believed it. For me, I had a really sensitive moment as a little kid that I was taken back to, and I was holding on to my sister who protected me. She was my protector. Once again, Sag energy has been crucial to my well-being in this world on so many levels, and So I've done this exercise a number of times. I got taken back to a very specific point when I was about 2 years old, where some of this protective mechanism started to kick in, both fantasy and warrior through. And what you do there as you sit with that, you feel that, and you pour golden light on it. You take some time to understand what that taught you. You take some time to give it a moment of grace and peace. And then you progress through the timeline of your life. I know time is a concept, but we can use it to form new neural connections and new electromagnetic fields. So it's a very useful thing for us. It's a good thing we have the ability to construct time in our minds so that we can do this work. You want to go back forward through your timeline, sprinkle gold on how that situation brought you to new understandings of love and survival. You make peace with that process. The goal here isn't to say, oh, I have this root wound and now I'm just going to spend 10 years healing it. The goal is to find that, acknowledge it, and give it peace. The goal is to be kind to yourself. And it's very specific. Maybe I'm taking this new moon personally to heart because of my Sag connection, for them being my guardian angels in life. Leos and Sages are my guardian angels. I know those are my energies, so it kind of makes sense, but they are. And they have been the energies that have kind of caught me at times when I really needed it. So with that being said, that's what I have to say about this new moon. It's really sensitive. And, full moons are normally where people feel the craziness of things. Wow. 9 of Wands, Magician. That's concise. Okay, let me pull a couple more. This just popped out. Let me pull a couple more and then we'll talk through this. But yeah, it's a sensitive one. Whoa. King of Pentacles, 2 of Cups. Okay. This is good. This is good. This is good. Groundwork, building, new beginnings, strength, beauty. 9 of Wands came right up. This is Mars and Neptune conjunct, squaring off against the Midnight Garden soil of Sag energy, new moon and Sag energy. This is the guy who's seen some things. He's had some wounds. He has his head wrapped up. He's standing guard over what is left after battle. When you do yoga or you do meditation or any kind of relaxing exercise, they'll remind you to relax your jaw and your mouth. They'll remind you to relax different parts of your body, because we go through life clenched up a little bit with this 9 of Wands energy. A lot of us do. We don't even realize we're doing it. That's the thing with 9 of Wands energy. It's really sneaky. We think we're relaxed. We think we're doing fine. We think we're going with the flow and divine sources through us, and we are still holding that spear, and we are still living in survival mode. We are still living in this kind of survival of trauma. And there is no reason to judge that. So many of you out there and so many of us in the world have traumas that we really did survive. And the scale on that is huge. My heart goes out to anybody who's really survived huge trauma in life. My heart goes out to you. I'm sending you all my love. But we hold this. So there's no reason to judge it. But we do need to acknowledge that it's here in order to give this part of ourselves that feels that sense of let's armor up, a space to breathe. Because the thing with this 9 of Wands energy is this is ourselves loving ourselves so much we want to protect that inner child. We want to protect it with everything we have. So we use fear, we use our survival tactics to keep it safe. But what we want to do is we want to let that child free. And that's what the Magician is going to be talking to us about. The energy really isn't in Gemini, obviously. During a Sag new moon like this, we are really, really Sag focused, but we are on the Sag Gem axis with the Sun and Sag. So we have to look at the opposite side of the scale here, and the Magician is very mercurial, very Mercury based, very much about messenger, very much about movement of energy, very much about breaking stagnation. You know, that's why he's associated with surprise, elements of surprise. And maybe this moon will bring surprises, but most likely from within. The most healthy surprises will come from within. If somebody else is doing like drama stuff, that's a whole other deal. However, the Magician wants to move the energy. The Magician wants to create new neural pathways because this is electrical moving energy. This is about choosing to manifest forward. This is number one. Where is the space between 0 and 1, right? Nothing to something. We have to choose it. We have to put that consciousness to use. So let's do it. Let's give that child space to roam and play again in that faith-based way. Let's pour the golden light on our beings. On our beings. And let's think about how we can build and open and find greater balance. I can't think of two more beautiful energies. What are we really after? To plant our seeds in soil that is fertile, that shows up for us time and again, to be conscious of the fact that we are in physical bodies and we have this time to build and create something. So let's start showing up to it. Let's start showing up to it tomorrow, tonight, right now, whenever you're watching this. That's what King of Pentacles is about. Let's invest. Let's start investing. Let's stop mourning. Let's stop holding ourselves back. Let's stop feeling like we're in poverty and start feeling like we are empowered. No matter what events have occurred in the past, that's not who we are. And in doing that, look what comes, balance. You know, true connection, true being able to see past oneself is in the ability to acknowledge oneself. We often try and use connection as a way to not have to see ourselves. Not that that works great, but we do it. True connection is about seeing yourself. And as you do that, you're able to see others and their journey and what they're doing and really see them, really share with them, really commune with them. But we really have to take that time to fill our own cup. It sounds so cliche, doesn't it? Everything I'm saying. It starts with the really small things. It starts in the really small, dark hours of our life when we are really raw, when we have been stripped back to listen in. Doesn't always start in the blinding daylight, doesn't always start in the blinding spotlight. In fact, very rarely is that the case. In fact, our greatest power is giving grace and non-judgmental space to this Nine of Wands warrior, to the child that lives within that Nine of Wands warrior, to acknowledge it, to allow it to move, to allow ourselves to invest in this moment, to allow ourselves to see and be seen. This is a type of bravery that takes repeated showing up in the Midnight Garden as we're digging in those bones. And it is not loud. It is not something you will probably see pictures of ever from anybody. Mostly, for the most part. It's in the shadows. It's okay. New moons are like this. New moons are about fertility in the soil, in the preparation, in the slowdown, in the roots. And with this volatile energy here, just waking us up. it is a wake-up call. And it won't want to wait for you. It wants to take you somewhere new, this energy. We just want to make sure we do that in a way that is healthy, that does not repeat these old bondage patterns, and does not repeat old prisons that we build for ourselves. That's it. That's it, you guys. Oh, you better believe I feel all of this. Every single second of it. But you know what? I'm really loving it. I'm so grateful for these moments of tenderness, you know, where I tear up over my grandpa and I tear up over my sister, and I think about the amazing blessings of souls that have been in my life. I want to thank all my friends and all my family for showing up with me as I've been like sorting through my own, you know, burning away. It's beautiful. Like, I honestly enjoy it. Like, this is so intense, but it is so beautiful. And I think we need to honor that. You can enjoy this intense process. You can enjoy the new beginnings when you're digging in there. But I think it really comes from a place of non-judgment and curiosity. And when that happens, the release feels so good. So I am sending that all to you guys. I hope this was helpful. This is sensitive stuff. It is sensitive stuff. We are in a sensitive point in world collective energy right now. You're going to be feeling it. I'm not going to lie. And we're only building up to another full moon that is equally intense. So, you know, you might as well just get on board and have fun with it and be creative with it and get in there and indulge in self-connection and connection to other, because this is where we make a huge difference in the world. This is where it starts. It starts very quiet. I love you guys so much. Follow me on Instagram at the SARAHTAROT. I'll also leave all my info in the description box below. I'm so looking forward to the next moon magic of the Cancer full moon. And also, I have those year ahead reports on Vimeo. I'll leave the Vimeo link below. I would really love if you guys would check that out. If you're looking for a little bit more guidance on this journey, I love you so much. I love you so much. If I keep talking, I will end up crying for good and all for the rest of the video. So I'm going to close it out there. Thank you for joining me by my hearth. I love with everything to all of you. Thank you.